You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Hello, and thanks for joining Revolution 250, where we look at events that took place 250 years ago this week. This is from the American Revolution Podcast, just a short bonus episode to remind you about important anniversaries from the Revolutionary War. This week, we remember the plans to invade Quebec. In July 1775, General Philip Schuyler was based at Fort Ticonderoga in New York. He was debating whether to send the Continental Army into Quebec to bring that region into the Revolution and to deny it to the British as a base of operations. Before planning such an invasion, Schuyler needed more information. He tasked Major John Brown for that mission. Back in 1774, Brown had been a member of the Massachusetts Provincial Congress. He sat on a committee that communicated with the Canadian provinces, hoping to get them to join the movement against British tyranny. Brown had carried correspondence from Boston to Montreal to assess Canadian support for the cause and to encourage them to send delegates to the Continental Congress. Brown also helped to recruit friendly locals to gather intelligence on the region. It was during this trip in 1774 that Brown also passed through Fort Ticonderoga and noted its vulnerability. His visit to Canada was less hopeful. He returned with the report that the people living in Canada were not ready to join the cause and would not send delegates to the Continental Congress. In the spring of 1775, Brown was with the men under Ethan Allen and Benedict Arnold who captured Fort Ticonderoga. Brown quickly came to despise Colonel Arnold and took a position under Connecticut Colonel James Easton, who also hated Arnold. By the time General Schuyler arrived at Fort Ticonderoga in July, Colonel Easton had received command of the fort. In protest, Arnold had resigned his Massachusetts colonel's commission and left the area. Schuyler asked Major Brown to return to Canada and reassess the situation there in light of the war that had begun in New England and New York. Brown slipped into Canada with 4 other scouts. His mission was a risky one, and resulted in Brown being chased by several British units trying to capture him. He managed to avoid capture, in part thanks to the help of local friendly French-Canadian farmers. Brown returned to Ticonderoga on August 14, 1775. He informed General Schuyler that the British were reinforcing their defenses at St. John, just over the border in Canada, that they were at work building a fleet to take the offensive on Lake Champlain, and despite British efforts, the locals seemed to favor joining the rebellion if the Americans would remove the British Army. He recommended that the Continentals should attack quickly before the British had more time to prepare. Brown would go on to play a key role in the invasion of Quebec that fall. He initially served under General Montgomery, but when General Montgomery was killed in battle, he ended up having to serve under Colonel Benedict Arnold, who had received a Continental Commission and was back in command. Brown will play a key role in the December 31st attack on Quebec City, which failed. Brown would also become one of Arnold's most vocal enemies, at one point publishing a tract that said of Arnold, quote, "Money is this man's God, and to get enough of it, he would sacrifice his country." Brown would also go on to bring charges against Arnold. After these charges were dismissed and Arnold received a promotion, Brown resigned his Continental Commission. He would continue to fight the war as a militia officer and would be killed in a battle with Loyalists in upstate New York in the fall of 1780, just weeks after Arnold was exposed as a traitor. I hope you've enjoyed this Revolution 250 moment. For more of the story, please visit your favorite podcast platform, including Apple or Spotify, and subscribe for free to the American Revolution Podcast.